Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we are going to make this beautiful trendy gown with a strap. So I am going to teach you guys how to make this style, and the back will be open like this, and it will also have a slit at the front. So you can use a duchess to achieve this. You can use a crepe material, and you can use a lycra fabric to achieve this as well. So first of all, we are going to do some pattern drafting for the upper part. So you measure your normal shoulder measurement. You take your normal armhole, your bust point, your under bust, and the half length. You are going to do the normal measurement with a shoulder, like the normal cutting with a shoulder. Then after that, you will cut out where you want to cut out. So I have marked everything: my bust point, half length, armhole. So I'll take my bust measurement plus 1 inch seam allowance. Your bust measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch seam allowance. Then at the waistline, I'll also divide my waist by 4 plus 1 inch seam allowance. So I'm not going to add any dart at the waistline because the neck is a cowl neck, so there is no point adding a dart to it. But if you want to add a dart, you can as well go ahead and add your dart. So I'll connect my lines. So after this, I am going to cut off my off shoulder. Like, you are going to determine where you want your off shoulder to start from. So from the shoulder, I want mine to start at 5 inches. If you want, you can make yours 4.5 because this is a cowl neck. So I'm going to cut off from there. You can see that I did not measure my neckline or anything. Just do your normal shoulder measurements. Then from there, you cut off your cowl neck. So this is what I want. So at the bust point, I am going to slash. I'm going to slash and spread from my bust point. This will help me to achieve the cowl neck. That is if you want yours to have a cowl neck. But if you don't want it to have a cowl neck, you can just make it straight. So I'll place it on a new pattern paper, and I'm going to spread. If you want the cowl neck to fall very well, that means you will spread it very well. So I have spreaded it, and I will go ahead and trace out the new neckline. You can see I slashed, and you will get your new neckline. Then from there, you are going to cut. So you can see the center. I'll leave it that way. Then I'll cut from the half length, and then I'll cut the rest of the measurements. So this one that I'm cutting out right now is my new front. And remember, this dress does not have any back bodies. Like, it doesn't have any back piece. You are going to tie it at the front. So this is the front at the back. So this is the front. This is the only thing you will need. So right now, I'll place it on my fabric, and I'll go ahead and cut. So I am trying to make my armhole more comfortable. So you're going to place it on your fabric, and remember, you cut out this on fold. You cut on fold. So here is for the skirt part. I'll subtract my half length, and I'm going to mark from my shoulder to my hip, from my shoulder to my knee, and the full length. The full length of the dress is 60 inches. So I am going to cut a normal straight cut. I'll take my waist measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch seam allowance. If you are using a stretchy fabric, there's no point adding a seam allowance. Just measure your waist. Just divide your waist by 4 and mark. Do not add any seam allowance. So I did the same thing at the hip, and at the knee, I subtracted 8 from my hip measurements before marking what I got. So I'll go ahead and cut out my front skirt pattern. This is just a normal straight cut. Then after cutting the front, you go ahead and place it on the back, and then cut the back. So for the back, if your fabric is not too stretchy, you will add a zipper allowance to the back. But if the fabric is super stretchy, I mean very stretchy, then there's no point adding a zipper allowance. So for me, my fabric is not that stretchy. I added a zipper allowance to it. I don't know if you understand. If you are using a lycra fabric that is very very stretchy, there's no point adding a zipper allowance to it. But I added a zipper allowance to mine because the fabric is not too stretchy. So right now I am done with the skirt. I'll go ahead and close the zipper allowance. I'll close it till the down part because it will not have any slits at the back. The slits will be at the front. So here is the front. I am going to mark my slits. So from the center of this skirt, you measure 4 inches to the left hand side, and then from there you mark where you want your slits to stop at. So I marked 34, but later I extended it, like I made it to reach 30 inches. I wanted the slit to be very very high. So you are free to determine where you want your slit to be. So you go ahead and open your slits the way you want. If you want the slit to be too wide, you can go ahead and trim very well so that the slit will be very very wide. So after that, you close your zipper allowance for the back, and then you will shape the skirt. So you can use a facing to turn this zipper allowance, and you can also use a bias. So this is what it looks like after using a facing. I'll also show you guys what it will look like after using a bias. So this is the facing. I'll go ahead and hold it down with a hemming gun. This one will give you a neater finishing than the bias. So this is the front part, and I told you guys that I will cut it out on fold. So I have placed it on my fabric, and I'll go ahead and cut. So after cutting this, I'll also cut the lining, and I will use the main fabric as the lining also. That means the main fabric and the lining will be equal, because you know this dress does not have a back piece. So I have cut out the front. This is what it looks like. You can see the cold neck. I'll go ahead and cut out the lining as well. Like I told you guys, I will have to turn the main fabric with the main fabric as well. So I'll place it on this one, so both of them will be very equal. Then after cutting this, you cut like a 1 inch wide or 2 inches wide fabric. They will be very very long. That is what you will use to make your loops. You know, this upper part will have loops by the side. That is where you are going to pass your band or your rope. That is where you are going to pass them through. So I am done cutting the lining, and right now I'll take my measurements to make sure that I don't have excess measurements. I'll go ahead and check. So if you have excess measurements, go ahead and reduce them. I mean, after adding your allowance and everything, if you still have excess measurement, just go ahead and trim them off, so that when you wear it and tie it, everything will align. So these areas that I marked, all these points that I marked, are where I'm going to add my loop. I told you guys that I will tie this dress, so this is where we are going to add the loop so that we can tie them. So this one is for the band or for the rope that I'm going to tie it with. So it is 3 inches. It is 3 inches, 2 inches wide, sorry. So I'll cut a very long piece. It will be 2, one for the right side and one for the left. So like I told you guys, if you use a bias to hem the slits, this is what you will have. So if you do it neatly, fine, but it will be better if you use a facing. I used a bias and later changed to a facing. So I am done adding my loops. You can see I have 4 on each side. You can make yours 5 or 3 depending on what you want. So I am still trimming out excess fabric because I don't want it to cross the back like that. So after doing that, I'll go ahead and add my band or my rope, the rope that I'm going to tie it with. I'm going to add it along the neckline, very close to the armhole. So that is where I will add the both of them, and I'll pin them down. So you give like 1 inch space from the armhole before you pin it down. So you pin on the right side and you pin on the left side. that is for the rope or the band. So after doing that, you place the lining on it. I told you guys that your main fabric will be your lining. So after doing that, you place your lining on it, to cover all the rough edges, both the neckline, the armhole and the side. You are going to turn everywhere except the half length area. So I am done turning everything, and right now I am going to join the upper part to the lower part. So I have trimmed my half length as well. I have ironed everything. So trim your half length, iron everything properly. You can see the upper part is neat because I turned it with my fabric. So at the end of the day, this is what it will look like. So you will join this only to the front. So the remaining part of the waistline, the one at the back, you will close it with your bias, and then add your zipper allowance at the area where you made a space for your zipper allowance. So thank you guys for watching, and please do not forget to subscribe so that you can get more videos from me. See you in my next video. Bye.